Good evening and welcome to the Job Search Solution, the radio program where we talk about looking for a job, changing jobs, changing careers, hiring. And as always, we begin with a prayer. Dear God, grant us thy peace and thy mercy, thy will be done. And in just a few minutes, Rich Levinsky is going to be with us talking about consulting and some of the issues that come up in consulting. He does that every Wednesday evening. In this first session, I wanted to discuss the top five mistakes that candidates make in answering interview questions. Most every candidate that I've ever run into thinks they know how to answer questions. Oh, yeah, man, it's no problem. No problem at all. I answer questions. It's no big deal. Just throw them at me. So here's the mistake that candidates make. First of all, they don't understand or think about what the employer is asking from the employer's point of view. They have a tendency to answer questions from their own point of view. Candidates don't stop and ask things like to themselves, can I do the job? Do they like me? Am I a risk? And can we work the money out? That's the four most important things that an employer is looking for. Candidates want to look at everything. They forget to look at things from the employer's point of view. If I was in the shoes of the employer, how does the answer to this question sound? How does it come across? Do I see it from their point of view? If I was in their shoes, how does that sound? The second mistake, obviously, is they answer interviewing questions from their point of view. They try to justify things like being fired or being out of work for 6 months or a year or being laid off from their own point of view. They try to explain how they were right and they were wronged by someone else. Whatever you say about your last employer, you're going to say about the employer that you are talking to. And that's what they perceive. Whatever's happened in the past will probably happen again in the future. And for whatever reason you were fired, no matter how much you justify it, they're going to think, geez, how do I feel about firing this person? So you don't answer questions from your point of view and try to justify it. I had a candidate the other day that got caught in a big layoff, and it was rather acrimonious one. And he just came up with all kinds of justifications about how he was right and they were wrong and how they made a big mistake and how stupid they were, etc. No. The third big mistake is that candidates start asking questions before they clearly understand the question. People are normally so nervous in an interviewing situation that they start answering a question before they really understand it. There's nothing wrong with asking an interviewing or hiring authority to restate the question so that you can get a better idea of exactly what they're asking. This happens a lot. There's a tendency for candidates to think that they know what kind of questions the hiring authority or interviewing authority is going to ask, and they start answering it before they listen. We do this a lot anyhow. We start answering questions before we hear the question itself. If you don't understand the question, say, I don't understand. Could you repeat that? Could you ask me about that again? I don't understand the question. And then feed it back. Do I understand you to be asking? And then repeat it so that you understand. There's nothing more foolish than answering a question that's not the right question. You gave an answer to the wrong question. And the hiring authority asked a question, and you were so nervous about the whole thing, you blew it. The fourth big mistake is candidates adopt I'm not worried about answering questions. I do fine in interviews. I ad-lib the answers. I'm great on my feet. And they have added that attitude towards the questions. That kind of attitude is a disaster. No matter how well a person thinks on their feet, the interviewing process is more sophisticated than it's ever been, and ad-libbing won't get it right. You got to practice this stuff. We have more than 200 questions in the job search solution that a candidate can prepare themselves for. There's probably about 35 or 40 that are the top questions. You got to practice those things. Don't think I'll ad-lib it when I just get there because I know how to do it. You'll inevitably mess it up. It takes practice. And then, of course, the fifth one, candidates don't practice questions and answers to the point where they're prepared for just about any interview situation. Where this comes across most is that they get asked a question and then they start rambling about the answer. They're all over the place. They take way too long to answer the question. I had an employer tell me the other day that the only way the candidate could have said less would be to talk longer. He didn't really understand the question very well. He obviously hadn't prepared for the answer. And so he just started throwing out answers that were all over the place. He thought, well, if I shotgun answers, I might get it right. And in fact, the employer said, it got so bad, I don't even know if he remembered what the question was. So these are things that everybody has to think about. It's not that hard. It takes practice. Nobody interviews every day. If you're looking for a job, on average, it's every 2.5 to 3 years. So you got to practice this stuff and watch out for answering interviewing questions. All right, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. This is Tony Bashir with the Job Search Solution.